What you're about to hear recounts an event so devastating, so brutal, that it was immediately censored by Israeli media. 7 elite Israeli soldiers were trapped inside their armored vehicle, consumed by flames after a perfectly executed ambush by Palestinian resistance fighters. There was no rescue, no survivors, only fire, smoke, and silence. And that moment, which Israel tried to hide from the world, could mark a turning point in a war that has already crossed every line. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see global power. We're about to give you the context you need to understand what's really happening and help you stay one step ahead. This is News for Dummies, where we explain everything to foster your critical understanding of current events. Welcome to a deep, uncensored analysis of Israel's ongoing offensive in Gaza. This is not just another news report. This is a confrontation with the horrifying reality of modern warfare, political hypocrisy, and media manipulation. From the front lines of Khan Yunis to the offices of global power, we bring you the facts others try to bury. In the heart of Gaza, 7 Israeli soldiers lost their lives in one of the most catastrophic ambushes in recent memory. Their armored vehicle, a heavily protected Puma, was penetrated from close range by a Palestinian fighter who manually placed an explosive inside. The result? Total destruction. For hours, the vehicle burned. When it was finally dragged back across the border, the bodies inside were still on fire. This was not a surgical drone strike. This was face-to-face warfare, the kind of direct resistance that exposes the limitations of military technology when faced with human determination. This wasn't just a tactical loss. It was a psychological defeat for the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel, which boasts the most advanced military in the Middle East, was unable to prevent or even respond effectively to a single fighter operating with minimal resources. The footage of the event, widely shared online before being censored within Israel, revealed the vulnerability of a force that claims absolute control. This raises a critical question. If the most elite units of Israel's military can be defeated by one man with an explosive, how much longer can this war go on before it turns entirely against them? And what was Israel's immediate response? Not a targeted strike against militants, but yet another bombing of civilian infrastructure. A school in Sheikh Radwan, a refuge for displaced families, was reduced to rubble in the dead of night. No warning, no evacuation. Among the dead, children, women, the elderly, people who had fled bombings elsewhere, only to find death in a supposed safe zone. Footage from the classroom shows blankets, crushed wheelchairs, and personal belongings scattered among the debris. The remnants of the missile lie embedded in the shattered concrete. Once again, the world is forced to watch the same cycle of violence, a blow to Israeli forces, followed by a disproportionate retaliation against civilians. Let's be clear, this is not about defense, it's about dominance, and it's happening with the silent approval of global powers. Israel's military response continues to follow a pattern. Military loss is followed by collective punishment, often in the form of indiscriminate bombing. Meanwhile, as the world focuses on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the European Union has announced the creation of a special tribunal to prosecute Vladimir Putin for war crimes. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has personally pledged to bring Putin to justice. But where is the tribunal for Benjamin Netanyahu? Where is the outcry for the tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians killed in this war? The hypocrisy is glaring. Western governments and media outlets rush to condemn Russia, but remain largely silent about Israel's relentless assault on Gaza. The same international institutions that speak of human rights in Ukraine turn a blind eye to the ethnic cleansing happening in Palestine. And while the media shifts the spotlight, the death toll rises. According to verified reports, over 58,000 Palestinian civilians have died since the conflict escalated in October 2023. In just the past 2 weeks, while headlines were dominated by Iran and Ukraine, Israel killed nearly 1,000 more people in Gaza, most of them women and children. This is not just a tragedy, it's a strategy of extermination. Israel is not fighting a conventional war against uniformed enemies. It is leveling neighborhoods, schools, and hospitals, and no one is stopping them. Back in Israel, the political situation is equally volatile. Netanyahu is under increasing pressure, not just from his opposition, but from within his own far-right coalition. Ultra-Orthodox factions are calling for a full reoccupation of Gaza and the establishment of new Israeli settlements. Their goal: eliminate the Palestinian population and replace them with Israeli settlers. This is not speculation, it's policy. And it has already happened in the West Bank, where settlements continue to expand in defiance of international law. Gaza is next. But even as Netanyahu tries to tighten his grip, his political foundation is crumbling. The Prime Minister and his wife face multiple corruption charges, including accepting over $260,000 in luxury gifts. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has publicly called for Netanyahu to be pardoned, labeling him a great hero and demanding his trial be canceled. Let that sink in. A world leader accused of genocide is being celebrated by a former U.S. president. Meanwhile, the death toll keeps climbing. And amid all this chaos, one detail stands out: the fate of the remaining Israeli hostages. More than 50 are still believed to be held in Gaza. Some may already be dead, killed not by their captors, but by Israeli bombs targeting the very buildings where they were held. This raises serious ethical questions. Is the Israeli government willing to sacrifice its own citizens to continue its campaign of domination? Let us know in the comments. Do you think Netanyahu is losing control of both Gaza and his own government? Or is this part of a larger plan? And what about the resistance? Despite months of non-stop bombardment, Palestinian militias remain active and organized. Intelligence sources report over 20,000 armed fighters still operating in Gaza, including members of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and Quds brigades. Many of them are seasoned combat veterans with tactical experience exceeding that of Israel's young, often conscripted soldiers. This isn't just a war, it's a war of attrition. And it's not going in Israel's favor. Every failed operation, every ambush like the one in Khan Yunis, strengthens the morale of Palestinian fighters and increases global awareness. Meanwhile, Israel's brutal retaliations continue to alienate public opinion, even among its allies. Even Donald Trump, usually a staunch supporter of Israel, has publicly urged the country to end the war in Gaza. Why? Because the global tide is turning. The images from Gaza of dead children, burning schools, and weeping parents are impossible to ignore. And if Netanyahu loses the support of the United States, his entire strategy collapses. As pressure mounts, internal fractures within the Israeli government are widening. Opposition leader Yair Lapid is openly calling for an end to the war and the beginning of hostage negotiations. Military leadership has expressed doubts about achieving a complete victory over Hamas, and civilians are growing weary of the endless conflict. What began as a national campaign to eliminate a perceived threat is evolving into a political and humanitarian disaster. One might ask, at what point does the cost of war outweigh its objectives? How long can a government continue to bomb civilian areas under the guise of military necessity before it loses all legitimacy? In Gaza, meanwhile, hope is a rare commodity, but resistance endures. Despite the odds, Palestinian fighters continue to strike with increasing precision and coordination. Their tactics have evolved, and so has their resilience. The terrain, once seen as a disadvantage, is now being used strategically. Tunnel networks, urban camouflage, and unconventional warfare are leveling the playing field. Internationally, voices are rising. Human rights organizations, independent journalists, and grassroots movements are documenting the atrocities and demanding accountability. Hashtags like #FreePalestine and #GazaUnderAttack trend daily, yet governments remain silent. This silence is complicity. The question now is, will the global community act before it's too late? Or will history look back on this moment with shame, as another chapter where power was prioritized over justice? Whatever happens, the facts remain. More civilians are dying. The resistance is not broken, and Israel's claim of control is more illusion than reality. At News for Dummies, we believe in telling the stories that matter, without censorship, without compromise. Because your understanding of global power should be based on facts, not propaganda. Thank you for watching. If this content opened your eyes, subscribe, share, and help us break the silence. We'll see you in the next analysis.